Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, October 17th, 2014. This is Jon Does the News. I'm John, and boy, do I have some news for yous. Ebola is on everyone's minds lately. Last week, a second healthcare worker caught the virus. What scared many across the nation was the recent news that she had been on a plane with over 100 people. Recently, there was a scare in New Haven when a Yale graduate student who was showing Ebola-like symptoms. The graduate student had just returned from Liberia after researching the Ebola outbreak. The student, as well as another student who also went on the trip, are still in isolation. The Connecticut Department of Public Health said in a press release yesterday that the test results of this student came back negative for Ebola. More test results from the CDC are expected later today. So people are just freaking out about this Ebola stuff. I was in class yesterday and they're like, oh my God, I know someone at Yale. They're going to get Ebola and then I'm going to get Ebola and it's going to be the end of everything. Well, it's not actually like that. People freak out over nothing. They're acting like this is airborne. You got to remember that you can only get Ebola by touching someone with Ebola's bodily fluids. Now, the only people who have been infected with this in the United States have been healthcare workers, and, well, some say that they had inadequate gear to protect them against the virus in Dallas because both of these healthcare workers treated the first Ebola patient in the United States, and they somehow got infected. Now, maybe this happened when they were taking off their gloves. Maybe their protection that they had just wasn't good enough, but that's what happened. Mistakes happen, and people, nurses, can actually expose themselves easily to these types of things, not just Ebola. My mother is a nurse, and I was talking to her the other day, and she follows all the protocols to taking the gloves off. You can't cut corners with stuff like that. And maybe these two healthcare workers did cut corners. Maybe they didn't. Who knows? It's a big debate about whose fault it is. I know the nurses union is not happy about the press about these nurses. But right now they're doing well. They're being treated. And when you do get treated immediately for this, you have a way better chance of survival, and they're handling these cases a lot different than they did with the original. They've learned from that, luckily now. So everyone just stop freaking out about Ebola. I'm just sick of hearing about it. It's gonna settle down and everyone's gonna forget about it sooner or later. I mean, it's only happening from people who came from like Liberia, where this outbreak is a big epidemic. Anyways, on with more stuff. This week at Southern Connecticut State University in Lyman Center on Thursday, October 23rd, 7 p.m. Sinfest, everyone. You're going to want to go. It's an awesome concert. There's 3 bands. There's Novelty, The Story Untold, The Story Unfolds, and Off the Dome. So I'm going to feature Off the Dome today because I talked to them and got their permission to do that, but also because it's been 2 years for them. This band just recently celebrated their 2-year anniversary. Congratulations, Off the Dome. 3 of the members of Off the Dome have gone to Southern before, so they're very familiar with this campus. You're going to want to check them out. They're grooving. They're going to get you moving. Off the Dome. Now I'm going to play one of their songs from their latest album. It's called Blue Jelly. I hope you enjoy it. And we are back. And I got some more news for yous. A witness to the Michael Brown shooting just came forward for an interview with the St. Louis Post-Dispatch newspaper after testifying to the grand jury who was supposed to come back with a decision on whether or not to indict the shooter, Officer Darren Wilson. He asked to remain anonymous. Now, this guy just testified in front of this grand jury. This grand jury is supposed to come out with some sort of decision soon. They keep getting the verdict date or whatever pushed back, and I don't know what the deal with that is. I guess there's a lot of information, a lot of people to talk to, a lot of evidence to go over, and this grand jury has actually been put on for additional time. Imagine that, though, being on the jury and you've spent like 6 months or whatever the amount of period of time is. 4-month period of time, apparently. You've been on there for 4 months, and then they tell you that you got to be on there for longer. That just sounds awful. But anyways, this witness came forward, and he had some interesting things to say. Out of the things he said, this is the information that we have. This source is from legalinsurrection.com, and it's by Andrew Branca, who has a book on self-defense. This guy's really into, I guess, murder trials with guns and self-defense. He covered the Zimmerman trial pretty well, so I guess he's going to cover this one if it happens, or at least get the news out about what's happening. So anyways, these are the things that he said. Officer Wilson did not fire while Brown was moving away from him, but only when Brown turned back towards him. Another thing that he said, Brown motioned with his arms out to his side, but never raised them high. A lot of people were saying that Michael Brown rose his hands up in like a surrender ring type of way. Like, hands up, don't shoot. That's what all the protesters have been saying while they're protesting. These protests have happened in St. Louis and Ferguson and around the nation in other cities. So continuing on to what his testimony said, when Wilson fired his last rounds, Brown was only 20 feet away. Brown continued to advance on Wilson despite repeated orders to stop. Brown's friend, Doreen Johnson, took off running when the first round was fired inside of Wilson's police vehicle. I guess that casts some more doubt on Doreen Johnson's version of the story. Some of his story has already been disproven, or will probably be disproven, because he first said that Wilson fired at him while Brown's back was turned, but apparently that never happened. The autopsy came back, and the killing blow was actually on top of Brown's head. Continuing on, he saw a struggle inside the patrol car and saw Wilson's hat fly off. And what else do we have here? A shot was heard at which Brown ran, followed by Wilson. Wilson's gun drawn, shouted repeatedly at Brown to stop his flight. Brown stopped, mumbled something inaudible, and began advancing on Wilson, despite Wilson having his gun in hand. A lot of people or reported witnesses have said different things. Some people did think that he said, stand up. He said, don't shoot. Other people say that he said, you won't shoot me. But it's really hard to rely just on these witnesses, and because they're going to have conflicting stories. But anyways, more on this guy's testimony. Wilson again ordered Brown to stop and fired 3 shots. Brown staggered, apparently from being struck by 1 or more rounds, then continued to advance on Wilson. And then Wilson fired 4 more rounds, the last of which discharged as Brown was falling. This guy said during his interview that he was already on his way down when he fired those last shots. What's transpired to us in my eyesight was murder, down outright murder. It's also important to know that police are trained to fire until their target stops moving. So, I mean, if you're going to use your gun, you're going to use it to kill someone. At least if you're a police officer. A lot of people are like, oh, shoot to wound. Like that doesn't happen. People don't shoot to wound. It's improper use of a firearm, and that's putting a lot of... That's just... No. Like, what if you miss? It's dumb. There's no such thing as shooting to wound. And it's also noteworthy that the grand jury heard 4 hours of testimony from Officer Wilson personally on September 9th. They've been interviewing more witnesses. They've been asking plenty of questions, or at least that's what this witness said. He said that the grand jury was very nice. He thinks that they're going to be fair. I think they'll be fair. And we'll see what happens. It's always important to remember that the evidence is what matters most. And juries tend to make their decisions based off of the evidence. They decide which witnesses are more credible if the witness's story and the evidence go together. So if there's evidence that let's say someone saw a murder and one person says, oh yeah, I saw him shoot him, and then he describes the whole scene, and then another person's like, oh yeah, I didn't see him shoot him, he didn't do anything, he was unarmed. Then let's say there's ballistic evidence and it comes back and they're like, oh yeah, we found shots on the scene, etc., etc. Then a jury looks at that and they're like, oh, this witness actually matches up with the evidence, so we're going to choose to believe him. That's how it happens in most courts. It's not really a thing whether the jury particularly likes one person or not. I mean, I guess that has an effect over credibility, but... Moving on to another case that a lot of people have been saying is similar to the Michael Brown case. I talked about it last week. It was the shooting of Vonderrit Myers Jr., an 18-year-old in St. Louis. This happened last week, but more information has come out. The information that came out was they found gunpowder residue on this guy's clothes and hands. So I guess it's pretty clear that he was firing at police officers. The way the story goes, according to the police, was the police officer was off of his shift and he was doing a private security gig, but he was still in his police officer's uniform. He was driving by, he saw 3 men hanging out, and when he drove by, they all ran away. He thought this was suspicious. He did a U-turn. He went after them. He caught up with one of them. Apparently, there was a scuffle of some sort. Vonderrit had the higher ground. He was running up a hill when he pulled out his gun. He fired 3 shots until the gun jammed. There was a 9mm Smith & Wesson. And then the officer pulled out his gun, returned fire, shooting 17 times at Vonderrit Myers Jr., killing him. A lot of people are saying that this was excessive force, but there's proof that this guy has a gun now. His family, Vonderrit Myers Jr.'s family, had been saying that this kid was unarmed. This young man, because he was 18, was unarmed, and that he only had a sandwich in his hand. But apparently, well, that's just not true. Evidence came out, and also pictures came out of this kid with guns. I don't know why people think it's a good idea to post pictures of themselves with illegal guns on social media. It doesn't make you look cooler. It just gets you a jail sentence. I guess this kid was also facing a felony gun charge and was wearing an ankle bracelet at the time. People were protesting for this as well, saying, stand up, don't shoot. Police cars were damaged during these protests. Protesters were arrested. And yeah, that's what happened. Now I guess it's pretty clear what happened, and I would say it's not like Mike Brown at all. And it's unfair to compare it to that, because it's very clear that this guy had a gun. Mike Brown did not have a gun. So there's that. I got some more Dome for you folks, some more Off the Dome from their album. Great song coming up for you. The song being Science. It's one of my favorites, and it's one of the band's favorites. Check it out.
Does not know it's dead to imagination. For it is not us that we consider retaliation. Experimental as a dosage to society. For it is only us that can be set free. It's just science. It's just science. You can't blame gravity for falling in love. Letting the notes hit you like raindrops from above. The pitter-patter makes the sweetest sound. But this is what we live for, what it's all about. It's just science. It's just science.
are back. Got some more stories to talk about. Do you remember a few weeks ago when there's this big story that went viral about this teenager who got in a threesome with two of his school teachers? Well, this kid is in the news again, and apparently he feels really bad about getting these two teachers in trouble. Apparently his grandfather said he is really down about it right now. All boys that age want to brag about what they're doing. He didn't expect it would come to this. And the grandfather added, he feels really bad. These women have families, and he knows how terrible it is for them. He knows they will never be able to teach again and could very well go to prison. He just wishes the whole thing had never happened. It's a shocking thing, a real shock for all of us, when you have teachers who should be educating doing this instead. Well, yeah. If he's bragging about it, maybe there's the chance that he convinced these two teachers to do it. But that still doesn't excuse them. It's still technically statutory rape. The teachers are Rachel Respress, who's 24, and Shelley DeFriesney, who is 32. Currently, they are on unpaid leave and awaiting trial. They paid $7,000 for their bonds, or they posted the $7,000 bond, and are currently out. So, it's ethically wrong for these teachers to do this. They shouldn't have risked their jobs in the first place. This stuff has happened before. And really, you don't think that this 17-year-old would brag to his friends? He's in like the prime puberty stages, and he's gonna tell somebody, and that's what ended them. That's what got them in prison. So I got some more stories for you. One of them is about the Houston mayor. The Houston mayor, Anise Parker, had recently asked 5 pastors for all speeches, presentations, or sermons on a variety of topics, including the mayor and gender identity. Now, this is kind of weird. I have never heard of a mayor asking for sermons before, and they threatened subpoenas if they would not comply. Now, apparently, they had made statements saying that this decision was made by pro bono lawyers, and that the mayor and other people didn't know about it. But as soon as this made news, the mayor came out and defended that decision. She said, if the 5 pastors use pulpits for politics, their sermons are fair game. Were instructions given on filling out anti-hero petition? So, Miss Parker is a self-declared lesbian, and she defended these subpoenas. And she's also a Democrat. Recently, she had brought this bill that got passed. It was a gay and transgender rights bill about using the bathrooms in the town. And apparently these pastors had collected signatures from people in the community to try and overturn this. And her lawyers were worried about it. The legals department was worried about it. But apparently now, after all of this media hype, she has backed down. And I think that was a good idea, to back down. I think the mayor or the people who work for the mayor should waste zero time looking at these sermons. It has nothing to do with them and their jobs. And also, there's separation of church and state. You got to remember that. I'm not the craziest about religion, but whatever makes you happy. That's my philosophy. And if people want to go to church and listen to these pastors present these sermons about whatever topics they are, then people should be able to do that. It violates their right to free speech, whether you agree with them or not. Just because you disagree with someone doesn't mean they don't have the right to say what they think. Anyways, I got some more news coming up. I'm going to play some more Off the Dome for you. Next up is going to be some weird, wacky news. But until then, the next song by Off the Dome will be Waves of the Sea. Great song. Remember, Off the Dome is playing at Sinfest next Thursday, October 23rd, 7 p.m. at Lyman Hall in the Black Box Theater. Be there or be a square. Once again, 7 p.m. it starts. We got 3 awesome bands. It's going to be Novelty, A Story Unfolds, and Off the Dome. Great bands. There's also going to be a costume contest. You don't want to miss that costume contest. There's going to be prizes given out. There's going to be food. And the Crescent players, after all this is done, they're going to do their... They got this little skit that they're going to do. I forgot exactly what... Oh, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. That's what they're going to be doing. These people try so hard for this. It's worth coming out. It's a fun night. Remember, Thursday, October 23rd, be there. Novelty, A Story Unfolds, and Off the Dome. Now, here's that song from Off the Dome, Waves of the Sea.
Just staring at me. Is it attention or the innocence that I see? I'm just flowing like a wave so I don't feel weak. Bleak will be my future if I don't relax. Let the problems in my mind take a seat in the back. Crash goes the tide, the break of the wave. Cause as long as I'm surfing I got something to say. It's the way of the mind. Shine on, shine, play life in the present so you don't rewind. We all do what we do and be who we be because we're all just flowing with the waves of the sea. I break with the tide, the rhythm of the ocean. I don't need to be convinced with your fake potion. Amends with the past, forget and forgive. To go with the flow is now how I live. Simplistic linguistics, oh how I missed it. If only my innocent child could witness journey that matters, not the destination. But screw that I had said, cause I was tired of patience. Create my own path, the next step in life, to flow and to smile. That's what felt right. Start right over from a fresh beginning. I'm no longer drowning, now I'm swimming.
And we are back. Some crazy stuff has been happening in Mexico City. A lot of protesters really, really angry at the government. They've been throwing rocks at government buildings. They've been burning government buildings. And police had recently had to break out the riot gear to deal with them. And they're very angry about the 43 student protesters who went missing 3 weeks ago. And this comes out after the police announced that there's 28 bodies found in a mass grave outside the town of Iguala. And it did not it did not correspond to any of the 43 student protesters who went missing. It's really angered people. A lot of people think the police are behind it. There's also really big drug wars and cartel wars down there. These rights groups have been criticizing the Mexican government because they say 22,000 people have gone missing in the past 8 years. No one knows how many have been lost to the cartel pits, like the ones that they found outside Iguala. Well, apparently that's not the only mass grave pits that they've found. There's more, apparently, according to the police chief, and they're still looking. Also, they might be found alive. Who knows? But they're probably dead. It's not a good place to be, Iguala, Mexico, when stuff like this happens. Farmers living on the outskirts of Iguala tell reporters that they see all sorts of strange vehicles driving up near where the graves were found. And one of them told the Milenio newspaper, "Sometimes we heard gunshots, but other times we didn't hear anything because we had music playing or the dogs were barking or we slept through the noise." She said, "I just shut my door and that was it." Imagine that, living there where mass graves and gunshots are the norm. You gotta be happy that you live in America, folks, where this stuff doesn't happen. So much corruption in the government. I mean, there's corruption in this government too, but it's nowhere near like the corruption in the government in Mexico. So all of these protesters are angry, and it makes sense because 43 of their own have gone missing. Unfortunate reality that we live in these days. Anyways, some more news. I want to talk a little bit about Eric Frayne, who has been on the run from police for over a month. There have been hundreds of law enforcement officers combing the woods of the Poconos searching for him. They said that they found some of his clothes and other things. They haven't really specified what. And this guy is known to his friends and others as a survivalist. And he doesn't like the government. And he shot at and killed one state trooper in Pennsylvania, and he injured another one. So he's very dangerous. He has guns on him. He has survival gear. He knows what he's doing. He's been around there for a month. And they've just been wasting I guess it's not a waste, but if you look at it, this guy is costing Pennsylvania millions. It was said a few weeks ago that it was costing them $1 million each week. Since then, the search parties has grown smaller, so apparently they're not spending as much money now. They recently had a meeting with the Justice Department there about making this search more efficient. Who knows? This guy might be long gone by now, but the police are still confident that they will catch him. Who knows? This guy might not go down without a fight. From what I've read, he seems really crazy. And if he was willing to shoot at those state troopers who didn't provoke him at all, he just shot them probably because he doesn't like cops, then he is definitely a big threat to worry about. Unfortunately, that town had to cancel Halloween for everyone. No trick-or-treaters this year because of the Eric Frayne search. Anyways, I got some weird, wacky, kind of funny news for you now. This is the section of the show that's a lot lighter than what I've been talking about. I've just been talking about horrible stuff lately. I've been talking about all these shootings and deaths and mass graves and Ebola. It's just, I mean, this is the stuff that gets reported more than nice fluff stories. So, I mean, I guess that's why a lot of people say the news is negative, but positive stuff doesn't make the news as often. Anyways, here's some wacky news for you. A Seattle socialist group who has been pushing for the $15 an hour minimum wage posts a job with a $13 an hour wage. I think that's really ironic. Why? I don't know who made that decision. $15 an hour? Why are they doing that? They should be questioned on this. Seems a little bit hypocritical of them. There's a screenshot of the job description, and this job description goes: local candidates only, no telecommute, part-time position for socialist website at Seattle Progressive Nonprofit Organization. Worksite located in the U District. We're looking for someone to fill the shoes of a graphic designer / web content manager. Your daily tasks will be divided between graphic design, such as creating flyers and leaflets, posting the content to sites such as events, articles, and statements. Good position that allows flexibility for a student or someone seeking part-time work. We are a socialist, feminist, political party, so interests in the fights for women, lesbians, gay, transsexuals, queer, people of color, immigrant rights, as well as others pressuring social issues is encouraged. The duties for this $13 an hour position is perform front-end web development using HTML, routine maintenance of Drupal and WordPress-based websites, updating content and graphics on a daily basis, copywriting and editing skills, assisting with planning, implementation, general office assistance, training, qualifications, familiar with HTML, Photoshop, graphics, Google, social media, also full knowledge, desired but not required, of HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I'm reading this, and this isn't a minimum wage type job. This is at least $20 an hour work, or a little bit more than that. $13 an hour for doing all of this stuff. I mean, I guess I could meet these specifications. I know Photoshop. I've been trained with copywriting and editing skills and all sorts of things like that. And just office programs. Oh, man. It's just so hypocritical of them. They're like, yeah, we want $15 an hour minimum wage, but we got a job opening, and we're going to pay you $13 an hour. I mean, granted, a student would probably love that. $13 an hour doesn't sound too shabby. But that's kind of funny. Got some more news for you, a little weird, wacky news. Love in the times of Ebola. Single male seeks fertile apocalypse companion. This was a Craigslist posting by this guy who's got this van, this really tricked out van with apocalypse gear. And the ad read, which was later taken down. I tried looking it up. You can't find it now. It says, Ebola is about to break loose in America. It's already in Dallas and Atlanta. Boston will be its next step, I'm sure. And soon airplanes, taxis, and the T will not be safe. I think he means train. Don't wait for it to be too late. I've been prepping for almost 10 years in the Vermont mountains and have a hidden sustainable bug-out shelter. Well off the grid and completely self-sufficient. I only fear that by going there now, alone, I will emerge in 10 to 15 years to find humanity has succumbed to this modern-day plague, and I will have no way to keep the species going. She's got to be fertile. So, oh man. Some people post wacky stuff on Craigslist. I don't know if this is a joke or serious. I know some people really are serious about these things. And it's kind of funny. Once again, as I said earlier, don't freak out about Ebola. It's not gonna infect you unless you touch their bodily fluids. It is not airborne. I don't know why people keep thinking it's airborne. It's like nobody Googles stuff these days. Everybody just buys into the hype and that's it. It's just, and you think that we got cell phones. We have cell phones. We have information at our fingertips and we barely use it. We just use stupid apps like Yik Yak and Snapchat, and although Snapchat is one of my guilty pleasures. We just do dumb things with this technology, and it blows old people's minds away that we have this technology at our fingertips and we aren't even using it. But anyways, like I said, don't freak out about that stuff. And some more stuff. Governor Corvette in Pennsylvania is under some fire lately. And he's been the one-term GOP governor who's in the fight of his life for re-election. Last year, he told editors of the Philadelphia-based group at a roundtable that he didn't have any Latinos in his cabinet, adding, "If you can find us one, please let us know." Now, according to a report going viral on social media, Corbett's re-election campaign found an African-American woman to stand next to the governor on his website photos. It's not an actual woman, though. This woman was photoshopped from a stock picture, and it makes it look like he was actually talking to these people. I think that's just silly and wrong to do. I know you gotta appeal to a certain demographic to get these votes. That's important, but why are you faking it? And it just makes you look worse. And like I said, we are at a technological peak. People can easily find out if these things are photoshopped or not. Not hard to do these days. The whole website footer apparently was photoshopped, and BuzzFeed had talked to them, and I guess he's having a hard time getting votes because he signed the 2012 voter ID law, which was later struck down in the courts. This apparently did not make him popular with civil rights groups, and he may not win back the governor's spot. That's just people doing weird things these days to get by, to try and get ahead. Won't work. Anyways, got some more off the dome for you. I gotta go, so this is the last you're gonna hear from me. Anyways, I want to remind everyone again to go to Sinfest. You're gonna want to be there. It is absolutely free. There's a costume contest. There's prizes. Once again, 7 p.m. at Lyman Center. 7 p.m. The bands are going to be Novelty, Off the Dome, and A Story Unfolds. Great bands. You're going to enjoy them. That's all for me this week. And once again, as always, folks, do me a favor. Read some news.
hobbies. No, they didn't. They just lied.